welcome back to Hillbilly Self-Reliance. This is part 2 of episode 1 on the Don't Freeze to Death series, specifically on the homemade fire starters. If you haven't watched part 1, this ain't going to make a lot of sense to you. Go ahead, click up here so that you'll be able to see it. And we're going to go ahead and proceed out to the yard where I'm going to test out what we produced last time. I'm going to show you some really interesting stuff about the burn time and the wind resistance of this really neat little homemade fire starter. Alright friends, so as you can see here, we've got our homemade fire starters laid out and ready to do some testing. Now typically what I want to do to these things to get them ready to ignite is I'll just take and rough up, one little spot of it a little bit, kind of increase the surface area of the fibers so that when I throw a spark to it, it's going to take right off. Now just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and just light these two with a lighter and let them be burning in the background while I also show you that these things do a really good job of taking a spark from a fire steel, for instance. And I feel like that's a really important aspect of being able to get you a fire going, because you never know, your lighter may be lost or down. You should always have multiple options to be able to make fire. Now as you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm just roughing up the end of this little piece of the sisal rope with the mixture on it, so that I kind of fluff it up and increase its surface area. That way when I throw a spark off the fire steel into it, it's going to have a greater chance of lighting on one of those fibers and igniting our fire starter. So we'll just rough it up here a little bit. Now we're going to take and do the same thing to our little cotton disc here. I'm just going to take and kind of crack a little bit of the mixture there, and I'm going to rough it up and spread some of those fibers out and up a little bit, just to give it a greater chance, once again, of getting that spark to kind of land in one of those little crevices and cracks of the fibers that I've made there, and that way it'll give me a better chance of getting a good ignition. If you just leave this stuff intact, it's going to be a lot harder to get it to take a spark from a fire steel, especially. No problem at all from a lighter. It's really an unnecessary step if you actually have a good working lighter on you, which I highly encourage you to always have. Now look at the flame that we're kicking off of those that we've already got lit. I mean, that's an excellent size of a flame for a little fire starter, especially if you're using wet materials, man. And as you can see with the ones we already have lit here in the background though, they are burning with a big flame. Now I like the sisal rope because it is rather wind resistant. You can see I'm blowing on it right here, and it's still, even with me blowing on it on a particularly windy day, it's still maintaining that flame. That's really, really nice aspect, and I will say that the cotton disc, it doesn't do quite as well as far as its wind resistance as that sisal rope does. But as you can see plainly right here, that cotton disc throws out an enormous flame, and it has a really, really nice burn time. Now the whole point of this is to be able to throw some tinder and stuff on top of it, get that tinder material ignited, and that's really something that's important to do, because this tinder could be wet, it could be somewhat moist. With the bigger flame, that means you're going to get more heat passed into that material you're laying on top of it. That's going to cause it to dry out a little bit quicker. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, because I want to see all of you next time on Hillbilly Self-Reliance.